What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Late Show with CEO. I've been going for a little minute. I was looking to pilot something different today, but there was a scheduling conflict with my co-host, so we'll try again on Monday with that. So tonight, I don't know. I just want to cover some of the current events that happened in the past week. How y'all doing out there? I know I've been going for a minute. As usual, buy me a Red Bull, keeps me going. Hold on, let me get a drink of water. Oh shit. Damn, damn this shit spilling on me and all that. Dang. That, this bottle was filled up to the tippity top. Damn. Yeah, I just wanted to cover some of the stuff that I missed. First I'm gonna start in New York City. Um I'm gonna start in New York City. It's closer to home. Actually too close to the home because I'm in the Bronx now. Wanted to cover this story. A woman was shot and killed in the Bronx. I think it was shot and killed in the Bronx. I wanted to cover that, so let me get this ready for y'all. Make sure I still got it. Oh, wrong one. I didn't share the audio. I'm gonna do that again. My bad. Yeah, but like I was saying, it's this woman who was pewed in the Bronx. Let's get that up. Let me see. This the layout right here. Whoop. And here we go. So let's dive into that. See what's going on in these New York City streets, courtesy of Pix 11. See what's going on.
Vanessa, good morning. And this is still a very active investigation here behind us at this hour. I did speak with police about an hour ago, trying to get more information about what exactly happened here. Not too many details they can share at this point in the investigation. What we do know, a 39-year-old woman was shot multiple times, and now police are identifying her. Take a look at your screen. This is the victim in all this, 39-year-old Julia Anderson of Mount Vernon, New York. Now, the sister of this woman was on scene just a few minutes ago, obviously very emotional hearing this news. But she said her sister was a hard worker, worked in this area with people with handicaps. And we also have some video. Take a look at this as the investigation continues.
What that's looking like? What's that? A Nissan? A Toyota? She worked with handicapped people. It's dangerous up here in the Bronx, man.
Showing investigators specifically focusing on a Jeep at the corner here behind us. You can see them by the passenger side front door where there are what appear to be bullet holes in a window. Police say this happened just before midnight. They responded to a 911 call of an assault. This is right at the intersection of Murdoch and the Reed Avenues, right next to Mount St. Michael Academy. Very residential around here. Also asked police on the phone about a description of who they're looking for, more details about what led up to this shooting, that assault they're talking about, and if there are any leads. They did not have information yet regarding any of that. The investigation continues at this hour. There is police tape still up behind us, police vans on scene as well with this investigation going on, and police still looking to make an arrest.
Dang, that's crazy. They don't even got no information yet, but I guess I don't know, man. That's a sad story right there. I seen that on my timeline. I just thought I'd share that with y'all. It's unfortunate this young lady, well, not young, she's my age. Yeah, I think I'm young. So this young lady lost her life in the Bronx. I wonder how long it took for the police to get there, though. Because y'all know New York has been defunding the police. I think average respond times is up to like, they say 40 minutes, but it definitely could take like 3, 4 hours for police to show up and assess a scene. So that's unfortunate for that young lady in the Jeep in Mount Vernon. I didn't know Mount Vernon was still considered New York. I thought that was upstate. This must be just like North Bronx. Anywho,
Hello, everyone.
hold on. Let me see. Where my list go? Google Chrome been acting strange lately.
The big story tonight.
So our boy, independent journalist Nick Shirley, has uncovered New York City senior citizen scheme or something like that. And I don't know. You know, I'm just pulling up the stories. I missed a lot. I'm just pulling up the stories, seeing what's going on. And Nick Shirley made some runs in New York, and he uncovered the scheme. It says Nick Shirley exposes alleged NYC senior daycare center fraud. Of course he did. Of course he did. Let's see what they're saying on Fox News Channel.
Is massive medical fraud. Independent journalist Nick Shirley is teaming up with Medicare Administrator Dr. Oz to continue his crusade against fraud. The pair hit the streets of New York City this week, and the video is quickly going viral. They targeted the city's senior daycare centers, which may have generated over $2 billion.
Now, this is strange because every other city he's in, when the news cover him, they never like blur out. Dang, let me see. Y'all can see my mouse. They never blur out the surrounding storefronts or anything like that. It looks like they're in Chinatown. I see it looked like Oriental lettering going on over here. I'm not sure which Chinatown they're in. Oh, Flushing, Queens. Flushing, Queens. Okay. Yeah, they must have paid money to get that blurred out. The Asian community is well organized in New York City. Let's see what they're saying.
In just the last 3 years, while also looking into medical equipment companies across the city, as they say, are stealing millions from taxpayers. Joining us now for his first television appearance since dropping that video is independent journalist Nick Shirley. Nick, thanks so much for coming on with us tonight. I saw the video. It was amazing, to say the least. One of the things I saw in the video is it seemed like it was a bunch of like this company was pointing at that company. One company specifically seemed like they were trying to say they didn't have fraud and opened up the books a little bit more. I'd love for you to tell us more about it.
Yeah, it was super interesting. So I started this investigation on these adult daycares in Flushing, Queens, and I go to this first location and they're like, well, we're losing all our clients because this daycare is offering kickbacks. I said, well, is the fraud real? And they say, yes, the fraud is very much real. And so then I kept digging and I went to this next location. And at one location, they had 7,000 patients, more than 7,000 patients, and they were billing up to $12 million. And it's only one-story building.
Wow.
On the second floor of a building.
Wow, Nick. I mean, the video is stunning. And then you have,
7,000 patients in a one-story building in NYC. Yeah, that's fraud. My high school had 4 stories and a basement, and I think we were over capacity at 4,300. Yeah, 4,300. My graduating class of 05. Yes, I'm a dinosaur. Yeah, our school had 4,300 students, and it was 4 stories, and it took up a square block. So,
a great co-pilot there in Dr. Oz. That gives you a little bit more firepower there. Tell our audience how that came to be that you and Dr. Oz kind of teamed up to not only expose this on camera, but also just to dig into some of these companies, some of these organizations a little bit deeper.
Well, it's kind of a funny story. So I went to Minnesota when they did the big break, and he's like, well, where are you going next? I said, well, I'm going to New York. I got a bunch of information there. And he's like, oh, well, let me know when you go. And so I let him know, and he came in, and it was awesome because Dr. Oz was able to go and kind of explain exactly how this program works and how people have actually been taking money and doing kickbacks. And it's really.
I'm not going to front. I used to be a big fan of Dr. Oz daytime TV show. It was actually one of my favorite shows in the daytime. I'm actually glad to see that he was able to work his way up to actually work for the U.S. government in whatever position that he holds. So that's pretty cool to see.
It's concerning to know that your tax dollars are going towards elderly Koreans and Chinese to play ping pong and do Tai Chi.
Yeah. Well, Nick, you are really the testament of how one person can make significant change. I really credit you for effectively ending the political career of Tim Walz. So on behalf of everyone who doesn't necessarily appreciate and
She just credited him for ending the career of Tim Walz. Wow. Political assassination.
illegal sexual offender who had been raping a 10-year-old girl being pardoned. Thank you. I want to go back to Minnesota just very briefly.
Wait, what did she say?
We saw change. I really credit you for really
been taking money and doing kickbacks, and it's it really is concerning to know that your tax dollars are going towards elderly Koreans and Chinese to play ping pong and do Tai Chi.
Yeah. Well, Nick, you are really the testament of how one person can make significant change. I really credit you for effectively ending the political career of Tim Walz. So on behalf of everyone who doesn't necessarily appreciate an illegal sexual offender who had been raping a 10-year-old girl being pardoned, thank you. I want to go back.
Whoa. Tim Walz did what? Oh, yeah, we definitely pulling up that story next. We pulling up Tim Walz story next after this.
Back to Minnesota just very briefly. We saw just this past week where one of the Minnesota daycare owners pleaded guilty to wire fraud and conspiracy to defraud the United States. How does it feel to see action being taken, and what more do you want to see in terms of consequences being done here?
Well, it's great. And what's amazing about that is that lady who pleaded guilty, she was the daycare owner who received the most amount of money from our tax dollars. So if it's the biggest daycare, what does that mean about all the other daycares, about all the other Leering centers across the Minnesota? There's been over 30 that have shut down since that video got published.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Nick, are you surprised is probably the wrong word, but as far as you have CBS, NBC, ABC, CNN, MS Now, all these major news organizations with hundreds, if not thousands of resources as far as reporters, investigative reporters. And here you are, a guy with a cell phone, basically, a citizen journalist that has done what you have done in Minnesota, now obviously New York, other states, and even in California, there is legislation to prevent you from doing investigative journalism. It truly is remarkable. So
that's crazy. California got a Nick Shirley bill that criminalized investigative journalism, especially when you're looking into fraud. That's everything wrong with the political system that we have here in America, right? And the president been saying that it's a lot of fraud going on in this country, and they tried to like demonize him for saying that. They try to make it seem like he's delusional, but then on the backside, when a person like Nick Shirley can do his independent investigations and come up with millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, find hundreds of millions of dollars in fraud, especially taxpayer fraud into these daycares and these medical services that they offer and all that, hospice and all that. Now they writing legislation to stop people from doing their own investigations, right? I think that's a attack on the First Amendment. But I thought the president was going after everyone's First Amendment. But it seems like California is definitely trying to stop people from doing their own investigations. Shit is strange.
I guess what I'm trying to say here is that way back when I was in high school, that's when I first got into broadcasting, WCPTV, community access. I was 16 years old. Here you are in your early 20s, making a difference that no news organization has made in some time. What made you want to get into this? What was the inspiration?
Well, I just started seeing what's happening in our country, from the border to the fentanyl crisis to the election, and then I eventually got caught wind of the fraud. And so I've been seeing what's been happening in the country, and I was wondering, like, why aren't people reporting on this? It's not even right or left. It's what's wrong and what's right. And obviously what's happening was wrong. Our money was being defrauded by Somali Leering centers. And then you have these other adult daycares that are taking our money. People were getting trafficked at the border, and yet nobody wanted to cover that. And so I was just trying to report on what I saw, and it was never right or left. It was just like, this is what's actually happening, and people obviously like it because I'm not trying to paint any narrative when I go out and do these videos.
Nick, I want to just return to this latest piece of reporting that you did alongside Dr. Oz and dig into it just a little bit more. You mentioned the kickbacks. So can you explain to our audience, what you mean by that and the process that you uncovered here? Because, when we hear kickbacks, that can mean a lot of things, but take us into what you think is going on here and what you actually discovered in this particular incident with these adult daycares.
Yeah, so these adult daycares, they're just basically these YMCAs essentially for these old people to go in and play ping pong, do Tai Chi.
He said old people.
And play dominoes. And because there's so many of them, what they do is they've created a referral program pretty much. So you bring in your friend, we'll give you a kickback on that. You come to the daycare that day so we can bill Medicaid, well, we'll give you a percentage of that money for Medicaid. And so they are able to give out these kickbacks.
So they created a Medicaid pyramid scheme with old people. So this is what they did. They created an old people lounge, free to the person attending, but they would bill their Medicaid and then give kickbacks for a referral. Yeah, that's that got that pyramid scheme structure for sure.
To the elderly for attending these daycares, and then more and more people get wind of it, and they tell their friends, and then there's just a big old referral program, and people getting kickbacks from Medicaid.
Yeah, Nick, I wanted to ask about that too. I'm glad Tommy did. But this is my last question to you. We talk about fraud, meaning you say you're doing one thing, but you're actually doing another. The other side of this is kind of just really bad policy, because you posed the question in the video even, is this really what we should be spending our taxpayer dollars on through the medical supplementation of Medicaid for a daycare for someone who may not need supervision or may not have an illness other than old age?
Yeah, I mean, I went to a lot of them, and none of those people look like they actually need daycare. I mean, they're walking out. I mean, one lady had a YSL bag on her, which is like a $5,000 bag, and it's
East St. Laurent bag. Walking out of there, she was balling. She was killing it on the ping pong table. She was taking their money. That is crazy.
It's very interesting that our tax dollars go towards this, and then the numbers are just crazy. Like 7,000 patients on the second floor of a building. It would be impossible to have 7,000 people there. Or even have 7,000 patients throughout the year. It'd be physically impossible. Mm-hmm. And so where's the oversight, and why isn't anyone ever looking into this? Like, everyone knows it's happening.
Mm-hmm. Nick, I'm sure you're going to keep an eye on it. I can't wait for the next opportunity to have you on. And thanks for coming on and explaining this specific endeavor. And I'm sure we'll hear more about it.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. All right. I just want to say Fox News has not yet independently confirmed Nick Shirley's reporting, and we reached out to Dr. Oz for comment. He has not responded yet. Tommy, I think about this, and
they just covered their ass right there. They just saying they gave him a platform so he could just express what he found, but Fox haven't even confirmed it. So I wonder, I'm pretty sure Fox News does have independent journalists. I mean, see these big media companies, what are they spending all their money for? And how are they earning these big salaries? I mean, when I was a kid, the news used to give you the news. The news used to give you what is happening in the streets, out in the world, right? Like, what is stopping Fox from sending out a journalist or doing a sting operation? I remember, what was it? I think it was Channel 7, ABC Channel 7 Eyewitness News. They would send out the people with the hidden cameras and sign up for these, whatever it was, maybe do a job or try to like enter a program or something to get actual footage of the fraud going on and audio. I guess they stopped doing that now. I don't know.
That was my first question was, he goes after fraud, and with these kickbacks, meaning like, hey, the government gives this daycare $3,000 to sit with you, and they're going to give you $1,000 of it back just for coming there because they're not spending any money. So it's all profit for them is kind of what he's alluding to.
That's a good deal. 33% for just showing up. A ban a month just for showing up to sign up. Yeah.
But the other side of it is, you know, it's just bad policy. I mean, New York has convinced the federal government to spend dollar for dollar on a program that essentially just gives elderly people recreation. Not saying it's not a good cause, but is it something that federal and state tax dollars should go to? Yeah, I feel this personally. My mom does this for a living. She gets paid to go and be with elderly people, you know, one at a time until they pass away, and then the next one.
Is he telling on himself? Is he telling on his mama? Watch out, brother.
They need somebody to remind them to take their medication and stuff like that. There's no federal program for her to do it. The kids end up paying for it out of their pocket.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with seniors doing Tai Chi. I'm glad they're doing it. It looks like a lot of fun. Maybe we'll all do it.
She is camera ready. Look at that hair. She is camera ready. Check her out.
I know Joe's going to sign up, but
Well, that's true.
The point being is this the best use of our funds, especially when we're told time and time again we have limited.
Joe Tight, she just called him old. I mean, Joe shot his shot earlier. Look at Joe's face. Joe was and Joe was like, this bitch. This bitch just called me old. Look at Joe.
Being is this the best use of our funds, especially when we're told time and time again we have limited funds, right? The left always wants more and more and more. It's like, well, maybe you just allocate it better. And then when you hear about the kickbacks there, and what Nick was talking about is there are other, maybe similar to what your mom does, other businesses that are not offering the kickbacks. And they're like, well, we're not offering anything, so people aren't actually legitimately coming to us.
Yeah, they're empty.
And so that is also another maybe unintended consequence of this, but it certainly hits real people real hard. Thank goodness for Nick Shirley going out there. He's just got, you know, some notes, and it seems like he's pretty readily available, actually.
Y'all think one of these big media companies is going to offer Nick a job, or do y'all think he should just remain independent so he won't have to be controlled? Right? Like, if Nick Shirley has been able to make national news and uncover hundreds of millions of dollars in tax fraud, why haven't one of these big companies offered him in the top tier independent journalist salary? Just a question. I mean, obviously he's good at the job, right? Obviously they all like to have him on the show. I think he just, if I'm not mistaken, I think he just had to do a hearing in front of Congress, and none of the Democrats showed up. Like, why nobody offer him a job? That man needs a job. Get Nick Shirley a job. Nick Shirley, you got my vote. I'll write you a letter of recommendation, brother.
Riley, you know, you brought up Tim Walz and just the effect of Nick Shirley in Minnesota, and that is a big deal. I really hadn't thought about that coming into this segment about, listen, there's also other news this week that connects back to Nick Shirley with the Tim Walz stuff and, you know, letting this illegal alien off the
Tim,
hook
I can't forget about him.
But there are ripples to what Nick Shirley's doing that I think people are overlooking. California obviously is not.
Yeah, no, and Joe said it. There have Democrat legislators in the state of California who have introduced the Stop Nick Shirley Act. And what this does, and mind you, instead of
that means he's effective. If they got a bill to stop this dude, that means he is uncovering the truth, right? Because if it's not truth, you let him fall off the cliff. It's something there. That's why they got to write the legislation.
going after the fraudsters, what this bill does, it's AB 2624. It will criminalize journalists with misdemeanors, $10,000 fines, imprisonment, and content takedown. It lets immigrant-based NGOs funding be
content takedown and prison fines for independent journalism. But is it the truth? If it's the truth, they should let it fly. But they not, because palms got to get greased.
Confidential. It takes away freedom of the press from journalists, and it protects any immigration support service information from being public. That means healthcare, legal services, etc. So it shows you where
it stops immigration report services from being what she said. Let me.
Away freedom of the press from journalists, and it protects any immigration support service information from being public. That means
So no immigration services could be public. I'm saying that wrong. I'm saying that wrong. So they basically want to hide the immigrants, what the state is doing for immigrants, and they're turning it into a criminal act. That seems suspicious. That's very suspicious. Why is this such a secret? Right? Because somebody had to actually write that into the bill, because she's reading off some notes that she got. So that must really be in the bill, man.
You don't find that suspicious?
Healthcare, legal services, etc. So it shows you where the priorities of the other side are. They don't want to get to the bottom of the fraud. They want to arrest or find the people who are uncovering it. So when I said to Nick Shirley, look, I really do accredit him with effectively ending the political career of Tim Walz. I don't say that lightly. I think Tim Walz would still happily be campaigning.
What's scary is that guy almost became president, man. Not president. That guy almost became vice president. And while I got him fresh on my mind, let me look for that video. Let me look for that Tim Walz video. She said he pardoned a sex offender. Let me see. Tim Walz. Oh, whoa. What are you doing? Okay, there we go. Tim Walz. Pardon. Let's see what Tim. Let's see what. Okay, what we got here? We got a bunch of YouTubers. What videos he watching? Guess what? It's Fox News reporting on it. It's Fox News again. Let's see what's going on. Oh man, hold on. Let's see, Fox News again. Let's see what's up. Yeah, this the Tim Walz pardoning the sex offender. Let's see what's going on with that.
Welcome back to this special edition of Hannity. Today we got excellent news from Secretary of State Marco Rubio. He just revoked the legal status of and deported an illegal immigrant from Laos who sexually abused a young girl. Take a look.
Laotian national Tu Li Vang was convicted of repeatedly sexually abusing a 10-year-old girl in the state of Minnesota. He even tried to pay his victim for her silence, and he called his heinous crimes a minor thing.
Didn't they prosecute the president on some hush money stuff? He tried to pay her bread.
Just days before this foreign sex offender was scheduled to be deported, Tim Walz, the governor, issued him a pardon, setting him free to once again endanger the children of America. Well, this week I revoked his legal status in the United States, and as a result, federal agents took him into custody, and as of today, he has been removed from the United States. Because of our action, this foreign criminal will never pose a threat to any American ever again.
Remember, we've covered this story. This is the illegal immigrant who Tim Walz pardoned in an effort to prevent his deportation.
I'm good, bro. I'm just reviewing this Tim Walz stuff. He pardoned a sex offender that tried to pay the victim hush money. So I just found out about it on this Nick Shirley video that I just did. But I'm good, man. Thanks for tuning in, bro.
Here's how Border Czar Tom Homan responded.
What would you say now to Governor Tim Walz?
Can't say it on air, but look, who pardons a child sex offender, child rapist? I mean, that's how much he supports illegal aliens over U.S. citizen children. I'm glad Marco Rubio did it, but you know, this happens more times you can guess, Will.
President Trump and his team take border security seriously. Under Trump, there has been a sharp spike in the number of people on terror watch lists arrested at the southern border. And ICE is now arresting 2,000 illegals a day for deportation. Here now with reaction are the founder of Endeavor PAC, Tiffany Smiley, and Fox News contributor, Devoy Murdoch. Devoy, I think Tom Homan is absolutely right. There are many more stories that never come to light, and this is happening. What in the world was the Biden administration thinking from a policy perspective, a national security perspective, and a political perspective of letting in upwards of 11 million illegals and then turning around in the case of Tim Walz, almost our vice president, and deporting illegals, and then political perspective.
Hold on. I didn't want to talk about the border and all that, but she's getting into Tim Walz almost becoming the vice president. He almost became the vice president, guys. He was what, 3 million votes off? That's pretty close.
Of letting in upwards of 11 million illegals and then turning around in the case of Tim Walz, almost our vice president, and deporting a man who was sexually assaulting a 10-year-old girl. What is the defense? What is even the rationale here?
I don't know what the rationale is other than to get as many of these folks in as possible. Hope at some point they get amnesty and that they start voting Democrat. That's the only logical reason to let these people under Joe Biden come into this country by the millions and remain here. And this wasn't just a one-shot deal.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I didn't quite want to get into the election and all that. I want to find Tim Walz's speech. Let me see. Tim Walz's pardon speech. Yeah. Let me see what's coming up with that. Let's see what we got. Okay, The Hill. Let's see what's up. Let's see what's going on. Hold on. Let me. Okay, hold on. Yeah, here we go. I wanted to get that. Get that right. Here we go.
Minnesota Governor Tim Walz is under fire for voting to pardon an illegal migrant convicted of sexually abusing a 10-year-old. The 3-person panel granted 40.
A 10-year-old? A 10-year-old? 10.
2-year-old Tu Lu Vang the reprieve on June 10th, and he was set to be deported. The Trump administration officials blasted this decision, saying in a statement, quote, Governor Tim Walz's decision to pardon an illegal alien convicted child rapist so he can remain in our country is disgusting. These are the criminal illegal aliens seen as Minnesota sanctuary politicians are protecting.
One of the members of the pardon board is Attorney General Keith Ellison, whose office told the New York Times in a statement, quote, the Minnesota Board of Pardons made a unanimous decision to grant Tao Vang this pardon after an exhaustive process, which included a statement of support for the pardon from the victim, a recommendation to grant the pardon from the Clemency Review Commission.
A statement in support from the victim. That did I just hear that right?
For the pardon from the victim. The Board of Pardons made a unanimous decision to grant Tao Vang this pardon after an exhaustive process, which included a statement of support for the pardon from the victim, a recommendation to grant the pardon from the Clemency Review Commission, and a large number of community support letters. Governor Walz pointed the Times to the victim's letter supporting the pardon as part of the reason for his decision. Vang says he was born in a Thailand refugee camp in 1983, and the U.S. admitted him as a refugee in 1994. Then becoming a permanent resident.
So the details here are pretty disgusting. This was sexual abuse of a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
And it was ongoing, repeated. He was 18 at the time, but it's a 10-year-old.
Right.
In 2000, so he actually didn't go to prison for this.
So what?
He made a plea deal. And so I guess he's had like sex offender registry status or something for the last 20 years because this happened in 2000. This was
2005.
2005, 2006. So they tried to deport him then in 2006, but at the time Laos was not accepting. We couldn't deport people to Laos. Now we can. Laos has an agreement. So this pardon, I mean, really.
So this is from 20 years ago. I still want to see what Tim Walz said. This ain't the speech. I typed in the speech. I thought this was going to be the speech. This is not the speech. Yeah, this show we freestyling. Like, share, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'm looking for the speech because I want to hear what Tim Walz had to say about this. These okay, here it look like this is it. Yeah, this looks like it. This looks like it.
I now bring this special meeting of the Minnesota Board of Pardons to order. Pursuant to Minnesota Statute 13 Delta.04, required notice has been provided. This is an extraordinary circumstance which brings us together to consider an application we had originally planned to consider at our scheduled June board meeting. On Thursday, and I may add, the Board of Pardons, consisting of myself as Governor of Minnesota, Chief Justice of the Minnesota Supreme Court Hudson, and joining us online is Attorney General Keith Ellison, who is with us online.
Present.
Good morning to you, Attorney General. On Thursday, May 14th, we received notice that one applicant, Jai Vang, was taken into ICE custody and is scheduled to be deported from the United States before the next Board of Pardons meeting. To preserve and assert Minnesota's sovereign state interest in enforcing our own criminal laws and the constitutional rights through the clemency process, I've called this meeting to consider the application. Before we begin, I would turn to Chief Justice Hudson for any opening remarks.
Thank you, Governor. I have no opening remarks at this time.
Thank you, Chief Justice. Attorney General.
Yeah, like what can you say, lady? This guy looks stressed out ever since he said he wasn't running for governor again. Look at this guy's hair. This is America's dad. Right there. Almost vice president, right there.
General Ellison, any opening remarks?
I have no opening remarks either.
The applicant is requesting a pardon. A pardon may be given to an individual who has finished their sentence and completed a waiting period. No member of the board has requested a second hearing. The board members may ask questions of the Executive Director Stark and Chair Lindstrom, who have joined us, and we may discuss amongst ourselves. We will then have a vote on whether to grant or deny the pardon to Mr. Vang. The board may grant a pardon unless myself as governor or a majority of the board opposes the relief. The applicant has been unanimously recommended for a pardon by the Clemency Review Commission without the need for a second hearing. The Clemency Review Commission recommends the Board of Pardons grant a pardon without a second hearing to Jai Vang. At this time, I would mention that Mr. Vang was convicted as an 18-year-old of a robbery involving a firearm. He was subsequently arrested and tried and did time in prison for that crime. Since that time, as an 18-year-old, over the past 30 plus years, Mr. Vang has started a family. He's become a critical member of the community, and he has lived a life without any serious criminal violations since that time. I would now ask if there are any questions or comments from the Chief Justice.
The only comment I would make, I would echo the governor's statements as I looked through the file here. It's clear that Mr. Vang has become an upstanding citizen. He has been working consistently over the past 27 years, recently forming his own company, but he's been employed long-term as a painter, I believe, and carpenter. And so contributing to the community. He also has just a wealth of community support. It's clear that he has become an integral part of this community, participating in various cultural activities in the community. And so I was very much impressed by that. I would also note that the Hennepin County Attorney's Office has expressed their support for this pardon for some of the same reasons. Obviously, this was a very serious crime, but also committed at a very young age. And the County Attorney's Office believes that Mr. Vang has shown remorse, and I think that is clear from both his own personal statements as well as the other documentation in the file. But equally important, has shown his rehabilitation. And we do not, I believe the county attorney's office reached out to the victims from the crime. And we.
So he didn't serve time for the essay on the minor. He only served time for a robbery. So he was touching kids and robbing people, and they pardoned him. That's strange. I think that's strange. But anywho, they making that sound all beautiful and whatnot. Upstanding citizen. I mean, he paid taxes, y'all. That's all. He made sure he paid his taxes. Very strange. I want to bring it back to New York because that's where we were before Nick Shirley fraud investigation brought up Tim Walz. But I want to hit back on
New York City's Department of Housing President.
I want to hit back on New York. They say rent prices hit record high in Manhattan and Brooklyn. Tell you that rent too damn high. Let's see what they saying, man. Rent is high as fuck in New York. Let's see what they talking about over here.
New York City's Department of Housing Preservation and Development is planning what they're calling an exciting announcement about a new affordable housing project in the East Village. This comes as a new report confirms something many of us have felt. Housing prices just hit another record high in the city. BISLM's Derek Waller is here now to break down the alarming new numbers, and they are alarming.
Yes, stunning new numbers, really, that we just got this weekend, and they are alarming. And I can tell you that the June median rents in Manhattan surged to numbers we've never seen before, and that is pushing up prices in the outer boroughs as well.
I mean, it's pretty expensive. It's definitely a premium to live in New York, but it is a very nice city.
But nice comes at a cost. Alma Ragazzi just moved to Rego Park, Queens from Tampa, Florida for med school.
It's probably about $1,000 more a month. Back in Tampa, it was around $1,300. Here, it's around $2,300.
And that price for a one-bedroom is quite cheap compared to what the same unit's renting for in Manhattan. A report from the real estate firm Corcoran showing median rent prices surging more than 8% year to year to just shy of
$52.95 for Manhattan. $52.95. So that you got to be making upwards of 15 grand, 16 grand a month to afford that house, because New York still wants 3 times the rent. In Brooklyn, damn, you got to be making 25,000 a month. These guys must be day traders. You got to be a day trader to afford to live in New York. God damn.
$300 a month. Brooklyn also hitting a record at $4,350. Other recent data showing higher prices in parts of the Bronx and Queens too. Average rent prices in Rego Park up 12% year to year for a one-bedroom, according to real estate firm M&S.
And the landlords are not running social welfare programs. It's not like I'm, let's love the landlord, but I mean, they provide a service. They're doing it for a profit.
This is a crisis. New York City Comptroller Mark Levine telling me it's as simple as supply and demand.
Rents are going up everywhere for one simple reason. We don't have enough housing.
You know, isn't it just so expensive to build a new project in New York City? Is that part of the issue as well? Because you see these new buildings go up and they've got to charge like, $6 grand for a one bedroom.
More than that, man. We are seeing the average cost of housing easy $750,000 per unit, and sometimes more than $1 million per unit.
He's calling on city lawmakers to streamline regulations and make sure office or residential conversions continue.
It would be a terrible mistake if, because of this horrible construction accident, which is serious, which does need to be investigated, but if we let that one construction accident stop this very successful plan to convert vacant office space to housing, it would be a terrible mistake.
And that report from Corcoran also revealing the vacancy rate in Manhattan continues to get tighter. Katie, just 1.49% of all apartments in the borough are actually available to rent.
Damn. I don't know many people that's making $300,000 a year in New York City, because that's what it seems like you got to make to afford an apartment. $5,000 a month for a 1-bedroom is ridiculous.
A growing number of homeless and
Yeah, $5,000 a month to live in New York City is way too much money. $5,000 a month, that puts you at 15. That puts you at 15,000 a month to rent it. You got to be making that, or have a co-signer that's making that, and then times that by 12. Yeah, that's upwards of a quarter mil to like 300,000, bro, a year. 200 to 300,000 a year. That's crazy. That's crazy that it's a gap of like $100,000. It's not even a lot of people making $100,000. But this story is about the growing number of encampments around the city because homeless is up, which makes sense with the numbers I just said. 300,000 to let's call it 200,000. Not many people in New York City is making 200,000 a year just to afford a 1-bedroom. So this story is about the rise of encampment camps in New York City. New York City is basically turning into California, LA specifically. New York City is basically turning into LA. Homeless people are making their little homeless tent towns on the sidewalks. So let's see what's going on.
a growing number of homeless encampments on Manhattan's West Side between the Intrepid Museum and the Javits Center. Dave Carlin spoke with neighbors who...
The Javits Center is a nice area. That's over there in Chelsea. That's a nice, yeah, those apartments over there, that's where the $6,000 apartments is at. The Jacob Javits Center, that's where the car show be. They'd be having like conventions there. I think Comic-Con be in that area too. Like that's a very expensive part of the city, man. And what Javits Center, what's that got? Intrepid Museum, that's over there on the west side.
Say the city isn't doing enough.
A bustling encampment at West 45th Street at 11th Avenue, where getting a shave means using water from a hydrant.
Bro shaving in the hydrant. You know how cold that water is? Like that's drinkable water, but you know how cold that is?
And finding shade means making it yourself with strips of plastic and cardboard.
I have to walk my dog, and I'm all alone in the street sometimes.
Living in a nearby apartment is Lucy, who asked we not share her last name. She told us she takes chances bringing her pup Ginger west to this area near the Intrepid Museum. The scene is similar, 1 block up to West 46th Street and also down to West 34th Street. She says the populations keep growing.
Some of them, they're very nice. They're very polite. They get out of the way. But some of them crazy. They keep, yelling and screaming and throwing things.
It's definitely not ideal. Yeah, I just generally feel helpless because as an individual, I don't know what to do to solve this problem.
Mayor Mamdani was asked what the city is doing about this issue.
We are focused on connecting New Yorkers to shelter and on establishing a pipeline to stable housing, not just moving New Yorkers from one place to another place. To this specific encampment, we're going to look into that.
The city's Department of Homeless Services.
Mandani's growing on me, man. I'm telling you. I don't like a lot of his policies, but when I like people who can, I take interest in people who can communicate effectively, right? Mandani has a way of, say you ask Mandani a question, right? He has a way of answering the question without answering a question. Like it's I guess the term is word salad. He'll talk effectively, but won't give you an answer to the question, man. And that skill alone, he's going to go a long way with that.
Took over encampment sweeps from police, starting each job with 7 days of outreach before the clearing starts. We spoke to this man who did not want to be identified, and he talked about being homeless for the past 3 years. He says hotter weather this week will force him into Penn Station or Bellevue Hospital, and then the streets again. He says no matter what the mayor says, long-term solutions for him do not feel forthcoming. On the west side, Dave Carlin, CBS.
Yeah, I mean it's $5 grand it's $5 grand a month. It's $5 grand a month to rent a damn apartment. Where you gonna go? What job are you gonna be what job are you gonna be getting that's paying
Breaking
you
news right now
that's
on
paying
Eyewitness
you
News at 5.
15 grand a month, man? What's this story right here? What's this I got queued up? What's this? Local emergency declared in Boyle Heights warehouse. Fire flares up. God damn, look how big this place is. Hold on. Let me get this up for y'all. So a warehouse caught fire and it's been burning for a while. And the residents are pissed. Look at this.
Right now on Eyewitness News at 5, that massive warehouse fire in Boyle Heights is still burning today. A new conflagration happening right now, which you can see live from Air 7. Thank you for joining us. You're watching Eyewitness News at 5 live on ABC 7, Disney Plus, and wherever you stream. I'm Jory Rand.
I'm Liz Nagy. LA Mayor Karen Bass is declaring a state of emergency.
LA has been having bad luck with fires, man. Karen Bass on the job, that means it's not handled. Damn, look at the size of this place. Look at that.
See in Boyle Heights, where that massive cold storage warehouse continues to burn now for a fourth straight day.
4 days? It's been burning for 4 days?
Thick black plume of smoke now joining that white plume that we've been seeing for much of the day. The corner of that building is once again on fire. Active flames, black smoke. This is not what firefighters wanted to see here, as they've been dumping water on this rooftop steadily for the last 4 days, including today, several rounds of 3,000-gallon drops from a Chinook helicopter that we have seen cycling through the area. This fire first broke out Wednesday on the roof of that 500,000 square foot buildings, which is covered in solar panels, half of which are now gone. Eyewitness News reporter Abigail Velez is live in City Terrace at one of the smoke relief centers open for those impacted by the fire, where a press conference was held earlier today. Abigail.
Yeah, Jory, we just heard from those city and county officials and say this is no longer a firefight. This is a cleanup operation. They say inside of the building is 85 million pounds of food. That includes meat, fish, poultry, beef. This is all beginning.
It's a meat warehouse and it's been burning for 4 days. You ever burnt a bacon? Right? Imagine a whole block of bacon and beef burning. Look at them houses right next door. Ugh, that must stink. Flies. Yeah, flies, because the
to rot. And because this fire is still ongoing, the inside temperature of that building has reached 45 degrees. To make things incredibly more challenging, fire crews still can't safely enter the building. Now, to help battle the fire, LA County has brought in large helicopters capable of dropping tens of thousands.
I think that helicopter should have hit that corner right there with the actual flames. He should have hit that corner. But I guess he's putting water by the houses so it won't spread. I don't know. I don't know how to fight fires. I just know water put it out.
Of gallons of water and fire suppressing gel at a time, much more than traditional fire helicopters. Officials say once the fire is out, the next challenge will be removing the tons of spoiled food and hauling it to the landfills. Meanwhile, Mayor Karen Bass has declared a local emergency and says that she's working with the governor's office to seek additional state assistance. Meanwhile, the investigation into what caused the fire is still ongoing.
The safety practices at this facility, whether stronger regulations, inspections, or land use protections are needed to better protect neighborhoods like Boyle Heights. This is a working class community. It's carried a lot of the burdens of the environmental problems. We must work closer together, not just to respond to emergencies, but prevent the next one.
Now, shelters for people who are seeking relief from this smoke, like this one at City Terrace Park, remains open. There's other resources that people can have available at their fingertips if they reach out to the county and the city if they're impacted by this heavy smoke. We also know that the county and the city are...
Damn, look at that. Look at that. Damn, everybody in the path of that smoke is choking up.
Providing free Ubers to these relief sites for anyone that needs assistance.
Damn.
There. We also heard from LAFD.
Look at the size of that cloud of smoke. Look at that. And it's burning meat. So think, you ever burnt a burger on a stove? One side of the burger, how it smoke up the house? Look at that. That's what that is right there. Look at that. It's taking up blocks. It's like a mile long from what we see right here.
Chief Moore, who says the last time his department battled a fire like this, it took 60 days for it to get fully extinguished. So we know that this is far from over. And for a lot of people here seeking relief at this shelter, that right now is the cause of their frustration. They say that they have dealt with this for 24 hours a day since this initially began on Wednesday. It's not just the noise pollution from the helicopters, but of course, it's the smell. A lot of the people who are seeking relief here are immune compromised. They have respiratory issues. When I was speaking to some of them, they became teary-eyed talking about how frustrating this situation has become for them, that they can no longer be in their homes. They have to be at a shelter and seek assistance. It's incredibly frustrating. I'm going to show you some of those interviews coming up on Eyewitness News at 6. For now, reporting live, Abigail Velez, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
All right, Abigail, thank you. At least they do have a safe place to go. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. So it went right into it. So this is the town hall meeting that Karen Bass was having about the wildfire. The warehouse fire. It looked like people are storming. People are pissed. She don't know how to handle fires. The Palisade fires, they only built what, like 4 houses? They only built like 4 houses. Ooh.
Anger and outrage overflowing at a tense town hall meeting in Boyle Heights tonight. Neighbors complaining about the putrid smell of rotting food and demanding a timeline for the cleanup following this massive warehouse fire 3 weeks ago. Those residents calling their neighborhood a disaster area that isn't getting the help it needs. Eyewitness News reporter Madison Wild talking to some of the people tonight about their growing frustration.
Imagine that. Disaster after disaster in your city, and she's still winning the election. Nothing to see here. It's a fair election. I'm not laughing at the people. I'm just laughing at the system, because it's like, when you're doing a bad job, say you had a regular job, right? Say you worked at Amazon. If you wasn't meeting that quota, you're going to end up getting fired, right? This lady's about to get a second term and running the city when she mishandled the wildfires that burned down some of the most expensive real estate in California. And now it's a warehouse that's been burning for about 4 days that smells like rotten meat. And now the people are mad and storming the town hall meeting. But she's still winning the elect. She won the primary mayor election. She still won. How is that possible?
She's live in Boyle Heights. Madison.
Mark, well, it was impossible not to feel the anger and frustration from the crowd here tonight. The community that continues to be impacted by this crisis, and we feel for them. We've been in that neighborhood. It is an unbearable stench, but I'm not sure how productive this meeting was here tonight, because most of the speakers weren't able to offer information without interruption.
This is how Thursday's town hall meeting in Boyle Heights began. Frustrated community members storming the auditorium. Mayor Karen Bass booed when she took the stage.
Let me say, if you want to listen, clap once.
In addition
She does look like Jack Nicholson's Joker from the Batman '89 movie. It looked like she got a permanent smirk on her face. She said, if you want to listen, clap once. What's she teaching? Elementary?
When she took the stage.
Let me say, if you want to listen, clap once.
In addition to updates from the mayor, the town hall was supposed to include presentations from other elected leaders, agencies, and of course, Lineage, the company that operates the facility now filled with 85 million pounds of once frozen food, now rotting in the scorching summer heat.
Okay, so what is the freezer, the Lineage freezer? What was in it? So everyone understands what was going on in that freezer.
The crowd cutting every speaker off and cutting right to the chase. The presentations ultimately cut short, moving on to the Q&A portion.
Will the mayor, will the city commit to shut down Lineage after the cleanup? Shut it down.
That question remains unanswered, but Lineage did issue an apology, assuring the community they're working to meet a 45-day deadline set by the city to fix the disaster.
I understand the uncertainty, the frustration, and the disruption that it's caused. And I am sorry for the disruption that this has caused. I'm here tonight because I know there's information you want answered, and so I'm working on answering those questions directly.
As far as progress,
Bro reading from a script. It's LA, it's Hollywood. I don't know.
Lineage says 1.4 million pounds of waste have been removed so far. And in addition to $2.5 million in disaster relief, the company will also be providing
1.5 million of waste has been removed so far. I worked in sanitation before, and every night I picked up 22 to 26 tons by hand. So I know that if the large fire truck, which would, I think it's the 22 yard. No, not the 22 yard. Not fire truck, the big garbage truck. I know that could hold 26 tons. That should be running all like 24 hours. Overtime should be being clocked. I don't know. That's a lot of weight. For 4 days, that's a lot of weight. They got to be running 24-hour sanitation trucks or waste removal trucks to pick that up that fast. 1.5 million pounds? Shit.
housing vouchers, air purifiers, masks, grocery vouchers, cash assistance, and utility support. The mayor's office adding they're expanding mobile health clinics in the area to help anyone feeling sick. But at the end of the night, still a disconnect between.
Wait, yeah, let me do the math on that. If my truck did like to the max over capacity, I did 26 tons, 26 times 2,000. That's 52,000. Okay. Now 1.5 million. Oh, not 15 million. 1.5 million divided by 52,000. That was 28 trucks. 28 trucks. 28 garbage trucks. I think they working around the clock. I really think they doing their best. When I crunch the numbers, it says 28.8 trucks. So that's 29 trucks at 52,000. That's at max capacity. I think you picking up max capacity when you're dealing with meat. Cause you could compress it. Like you can like the truck compresses it. Ooh. Yeah, they in a pickle. They got a situation.
The crowd and the panel.
I am very disgusted with how this response has played out in real time.
As long as we continue to shout and scream, we're not going to get anything done correctly. Please, please, we have to work together.
The number one thing that we keep hearing from people here is that they want to relocate because of that awful smell. So we heard about those housing vouchers. We also heard that Airbnb will be stepping in to provide emergency assistance. We're told that those in need should start by calling 211.
Is that going to be tax funded? Anytime there's a disaster, some industry willing to make some money. That's unfortunate. I think for them to already remove 1.5 million pounds, that's 28 trucks, 4 days. They probably running 16 hours a day. They need to be running 24 hours a day to meet that number and speed it up. They got 45 days. They got 45 days. Yeah, but I'm gonna move into
we start with President.
I'm gonna move into Trump and his latest speech about the SAVE Act to protect the integrity of America's elections, because America is one of the only countries that don't require voter ID and or proof of citizenship to participate in elections. So let's see what Trump said about that. This is News Nation. Let's see what they're saying.
Trump claiming Americans cannot trust their own country's elections. In his primetime address, the president accusing China of engineering his defeat in 2020. He also claims a deep state cover-up included the intelligence community under his own watch.
I'm asking the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, the Department of Justice, the FBI, and the CIA to investigate how and why such crucial information was hidden, to fire those involved in the cover-up, and to file criminal charges, if appropriate, against these people.
The White House dropping a series of newly declassified documents online while he was speaking. The intel community found China preferred a Trump loss in 2020, but they also said Beijing.
They dropped the files while he was speaking. That's pretty dope. That's pretty dope.
Did not intend on trying to affect the election. They also said Russia and its proxies spread corruption claims about Joe Biden and the Democrats, aiming to ensure then President Trump's victory. But with the crucial midterms fast approaching, President Trump says the only way to protect elections is to pass his Save America Act. And Democrats, who, by the way, are favored to win the House come November, already firing back.
What we're talking about here is not about the SAVE Act, which is an abomination, but it is about setting the stage for Donald Trump to reject the results of the upcoming election.
News Nation Washington correspondent Corey Smith is live outside the White House for us this morning with more. Corey, good morning to you. It was a big night last night. What more did the president say about American elections?
Yeah, good morning, Marky. It was a big night. And this address was less about relitigating the 2020 election and more focused on what the president calls major vulnerabilities in the country's election system. Now, he did not explicitly say those vulnerabilities led to his loss in 2020, an election he has repeatedly claimed was rigged without evidence. But he said our elections were left vulnerable to being rigged and stolen, and tried to make the case that the Save America Act is the solution. So speaking from the East Room in front of a host.
I don't like when they say without evidence, because we acting like people don't destroy evidence all the time, bro. When you're doing something illegal, first thing you do is try to destroy the evidence. Like, that's so like typical, man. We living in a movie.
Of cabinet members, the president talked about newly declassified documents that he says detail efforts by China to undermine U.S. elections going back all the way to 2018, from trying to sway public opinion against then President Trump to gaining access to nearly 220 million voter files. But perhaps even more shocking, as you mentioned, Marky, the president accusing members of the intelligence community of a cover-up, saying the deep state kept the information hidden from him and the public. And he's called on the Department of Justice to investigate.
This data loss presents an unprecedented election security nightmare. The intelligence even shows that China assigned a data exploitation unit specifically to this new project. Compounding the travesty, the second set of documents we are releasing reveals that members of the deep state, very, very famous group of people, many cases, in our intelligence agency work to actively suppress and downplay information about the extent of China's sinister election meddling.
I heard the vulnerabilities mentioned last night. The president touched on voting machines and voter data, saying they are both open to cyber attacks from foreign adversaries. Mr. Trump also discussed voter registration fraud, pointing to a case in Michigan that he believes law enforcement should re-examine.
I got any fans of Ozark watching right now? There was a storyline where they had some software that was able to rig the voting machines. I think it's Ozark season. It was the Ozark when they was trying to open the casino, right? And somebody had to win that was back in the casino, and they said it was somebody had software to rig the election and take over the voting machines. And now we're talking about it in real life. They have to show you before they do it. People keep saying that. They keep saying conspiracy theories, but like conspiracy theories are up. Like they really doing this to us.
Went on to claim there are more than 250,000 non-citizens on state voter rolls registered to vote in federal elections. You put it all together, Markey, and the president says there is a case to be made for major changes to election security.
These disclosures reveal an election system so broken and so vulnerable that no one can possibly defend it. It is not defensible. Hundreds of millions of U.S. voter files are in the hands of foreign governments. Our machines and ballot counting systems are exposed to hacking and manipulation and corruption.
Now, some of what the president said last night was already public knowledge, and he presented no evidence that votes were actually switched or manipulated during the 2020 election. The U.S. intelligence assessment previously found no evidence Beijing had any effect on the 2020 vote. Democratic Senator Mark Warner of Virginia slammed the speech, saying he fears the president is trying to set the table to claim midterms interference. Now, in terms of the Save America Act being a solution here, that legislation largely focuses on things like voter ID, proof of citizenship to register, mail-in voting, not the issues of election security the president mentioned last night.
But those are things that can secure the election a little bit more. Just if I had you need ID to buy cigarettes, you need ID to rent a car, you need ID, birth certificate to get new ID just in case you use it. I mean, you should need ID to register to vote, right? Not a gym membership card like in LA. You know what I'm saying? Like that just doesn't make sense. And why does some states have it illegal to ask somebody for their ID, right? If picking the leaders is such an important part of the American system, why not confirm that the person casting the vote is an American citizen? Yeah, that just makes too much sense.
Most importantly, addressing this crisis of election security demands that Congress must pass the Save America Act. How easy is that to do unless you want to cheat?
Thank you for watching.
Yeah, well, he said it. You want to cheat, like, come on. Come on. Oh, damn, it just closed my joint. Damn. Here's
Catherine Harris is here with us.
Here's another News Nation joint in regards to the Save America Act.
Catherine Herridge is here with us. So first, just your reaction to the president's announcement tonight.
Well, I think it's a very significant announcement, not only what he said, but the fact that they are releasing these documents so that we can really fact check the claims we heard this evening. I've been digging into the documents already, and I found this November 2020 email. And it specifically states, it's a conversation among intelligence officials. It specifically states that they have, quote, deliberately massaged one of our pending PDBs, that's the president's daily brief, to avoid any direct links to the election. And that is consistent with my reporting.
Why would they do that? Why would you deliberately keep information out of the president's daily briefing in regards to the election? Like, what was the purpose of that if he's the president? I don't know. Just asking questions.
I understand the whistleblower complaint alleged, and I think we're now seeing it in the emails, that there was an intentional effort to suppress intelligence about China's influence operations. And this was, Katie, like a massive effort, what they call a multi-domain operation. That means trade, it means diplomacy, it means open source information, it means social media. So all the levers of power China had to influence the US elections.
In your reporting, you've said that a senior intelligence official emphasized to you that in 2020, China was not held to the same standard as Russia and other adversaries, including North Korea, Iran, and proxies like Hezbollah, and that the Chinese influence operations were consistently downplayed while Russia's were routinely amplified. You also talked about this whistleblower who was reportedly retaliated against for trying to bring this information to light.
So in the summer of 2020, as we're heading into the election, in the intelligence community, there were indicators of this Chinese influence operation. Influence operations means that you're trying to affect the outcome of how people vote or their sentiment about a presidential candidate. It's different than an interference operation, which is penetrating voting rolls and voter systems. And this whistleblower was raising the alarm about the influence operation, and then suddenly it all was suppressed. My understanding—
That was the algorithm during the pandemic. That was the algorithm they was talking about. That's why he kept going at China. He started with China. He kept calling it the Chinese flu and all that. You know what I mean? I don't know what to say on YouTube. I ain't read the terms and services, but you know, talking about the pandemic. I remember that. And then they just flipped and said he had Russia trying to cheat for him.
Is that some of their reports, there were in officials' own handwriting that they wanted everything out that could help President Trump in his reelection. So there was clear evidence of political and personal bias, and intelligence is supposed to be neutral. So what we heard tonight from the president is an allegation that this intelligence was suppressed in order to harm him. And now we're seeing documents already which back up those claims.
So based on what he said tonight, it seems to me there are two scandals. The first is what China has been doing with their influence operation, taking 220 million voter registration rolls or data, rather, to try and influence the American people in their elections. But also the scandal that this information about our election system and adversaries trying to do this to the American people was suppressed by the intelligence agencies, the deep state, so to speak.
One of the things that I think is important for people to understand, and I think you're going right to that point, is just the scope of the information we're talking about. So 220 million voter rolls. China is one of the biggest collectors of data on the planet. So if you take that 220 million voter rolls and you combine it with something called the SF-86, those are the security clearance applications that were compromised back in 2015, 22 million files. And then you combine it with all of the health information that's been hacked, you can really build this kind of digital composite of an individual. And you can use that for, you know, voter registration fraud. You can use that for identity theft. And significantly, you can also use it to recruit American citizens to your efforts. So it's not just about the collection of the data around the vote. Exactly.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
exactly
I mean,
right.
these documents show, you know, that the information that they were looking at included first, middle, and last names, dates of birth, telephone numbers, historical voting.
Yo, that paper she flipping is heavily redacted. Look at all those black lines on that paper. That's crazy.
Records, home mailing addresses, military affiliation, political party affiliation, getting as much information as possible about the American voter. You just outlined why China would maybe want to do that, but some people are saying that this information is already public. So what's the problem with China doing this?
Well, it's
and
not
CIA
all of it
ignoring
is public. I mean, what we heard tonight, and I think this is fair, is that this voter registration data can be bought, sold, or hacked. And what the president suggested tonight is that all three were utilized in order to collect 220 million US voter rolls. I think the larger question is why, if there was such a threat from this influence operation on a scale much more significant than Russia, Iran, and North Korea, why was it suppressed? And his position is that it was suppressed for political reasons. And just as a final point, when you think back to 2020, that sort of 2016 to 2020, it was always about Russia. My reporting is that inside the intelligence community, everything about Russia was being amplified. It was described as Russian election interference. That means, from an intelligence point of view, that they were compromising the systems. My reporting is that it was actually more of an influence operation, and it was significantly smaller than what the Chinese were executing.
So based on your reporting and the differences tonight, President Trump did say that intelligence chiefs, including the CIA director and the leader of DNI, have reviewed and approved the release of these documents, which is a big difference between what you have reported, which is the suppression of this information by the intelligence agencies and heads previously not to get this information to the president.
I think one of the great things, I always say that I like documents more than people because documents don't spin. They kind of speak for themselves. I think one of the great developments tonight is that people can look at these records for themselves. It's hard work. It's, slow going sometimes, but you can. I just found an email right here which talks about massaging the president's daily brief. I mean, that is the kind of thing that should never happen in the U.S. intelligence community. And I was struck, Katie, by the fact that the president seemed restrained. What he said is that our election security, our election systems are very poor. I was going to use another word, but I won't.
He said they're failing catastrophically and they're vulnerable.
That's right. Yeah. And but what he didn't say, or what he didn't make the emphasis, was what it meant for the results in 2020. He said, we have a bad system. We're the democracy the world looks to. We have to do better.
Well, and what does the future hold? I mean, we have a midterm election coming up. We have presidential elections every 4 years. Elections are a big part of the functioning of our country. So, Catherine, stay right there. We'll let you pour over some more of these documents.
Thank you for watching.
Why is China influencing American elections? Can somebody answer that? Why is China influencing American elections? It's very weird. And I can't even say we don't interfere with I can't act like we don't interfere with other people's countries and the regime changes and all that. But when we're talking about hacking voting machines and influencing, like stealing American citizens' data and influencing them with these algorithms and all that, it's more, it seems like our political system is heavily based on social programming of people, right? It's like you're either far left or far right, right? You just can't like call it down the middle. A lot of people like to claim they're independent, but like you end up going either far left or far right. I think America needs more parties in the system. I think that Green Party needs to grow. And I think we need to really vet these people who we think are leaders, who we think should be leading the country. How you doing? Red? How you doing? This is This is crazy. All right, I got another one for you. Mayor Mandani says the math ain't mathing in New York. The math ain't mathing. The Big Money Show, Fox Business. I guess I'm a fan of Fox. A lot of this is on Fox, which is crazy.
A sprawling homeless encampment has taken over roughly a dozen blocks of New York City's Manhattan's West Side. New York City Mayor Zozo Mandani says that the city is on it. It wants to focus on connecting with New Yorkers there with some shelter rather than moving people. I have no idea what he's talking about. Who wants this? Because get them off the street. They weren't there before he was elected. It wasn't a giant outdoor homeless encampment, and it is dangerous.
I'll let you jump in with LA.
Yeah.
I walked by there yesterday as promised because it's on my way home, and I was shocked. There was a couch, there's a ladder there. What else did I see, you guys?
PS5, internet, T-Mobile, Wi-Fi.
A suitcase,
The nice
a
furniture
whole
dolly I saw
dolly,
in that picture.
all the way now up to 47. So it's now 34 to 4. So it's 13 blocks now.
13-block homeless encampment on the west side of New York City that wasn't there before. They would be in the shelters if our shelter system wasn't overwhelmed by sanctuary city policy migrants. I'm just saying.
The only grace I can give the city and these people is I think cops are there every night trying to clean it up, and then they're there the next day. I noticed it up towards me on 57, 58th Street under the bridge. Yesterday, 4 tents. Today, they were gone. But I think this afternoon, they'll be back. So I agree with you. You have to connect people with shelter by, like, you're going to a home or you're going to a mentally ill institution or you're going somewhere, not just shuffling people around. But if you're in a city where it's incompetent and you have told the cops that they don't have to enforce the rules, Jillian, we're starting to look like LA. I called my mom and I said, I feel like this is starting.
I said that in the last segment when we covered this homeless encampment stuff. It's starting to look like LA. Have you seen the what they call it? The Walk of Fame? It's a homeless encampment over there. People saying people are taking poops on the street. They just come outside their tent, take a poop on the street, go back inside. It is starting to look like LA in certain parts of Manhattan.
To look like Skid Row.
I was just about to say, this one I can handle. The AI one I got to pass off, but here's what's happening. The reason he wants to connect them with shelters is because when you put housing first, all of these NGOs grab up the city's tax dollars. That's where the $24 billion just went to in California. Poof, and the problem got worse. And Newsom has vetoed a bill to let people audit what happened to that money. And then it's all under the pretense of providing dignity. But there is nothing dignified about what is happening in those encampments. Women are being trafficked. There are fentanyl. There's literally people overdosing from fentanyl. And even more disturbing and less known is that dogs are being kidnapped from people. And homeless people are testing their drugs on the dogs. I'm not exaggerating. It's just, oh my gosh, it's just.
They doing animal. They testing the drugs on the dogs. They trying to see if that Fenty gonna really hit. That's yo. Somebody little chihuahua is high as a motherfucker right now. Damn.
Opium, and it's awful. These people need treatment for either mental illness or drug addiction. Housing first does not work. It is a money grab. We know it for a fact, and California is the perfect test case.
People who are severely mentally ill or dual diagnosis, drug and alcohol addicted and severely mentally ill, will not stay in homeless shelters. And Mandani has already built out has already begun spending. There's been, the budget went up $10 billion from last year. He has new agencies, a special education expansion of $67 million, an Office of Community Safety built around non-law enforcement response when he has refused or canceled plans to hire up to 5,000 more police officers. So again, the money grab, we're going to build out these agencies that actually just leave these people on the street and make the problem worse.
I found it interesting in the Post article about this that they reported that sources were saying Mamdani was actually freaking out about this behind closed doors because it's not a good look for the taxpayers. But you know what? They're saying sources said it, but let's follow that through because there's been such a massive exodus of wealth here, and he can't pay for everything that he wants to do without people being able to pay taxes. And I think he's starting to finally realize the math isn't adding up. But of course, publicly, he's not showing that at all. Actually, he's like shrugging it off and basically telling people to go shove it if you don't like it. The big problem here is crime, safety with respect to needles, disease, everything else. The businesses in the area are reportedly saying that they have to deal with crazies all the time. People are scared. You've got people that are paying good rent in those areas to live.
Yeah, that's the west side. That's Chelsea over there. That's Chelsea Hell Kitchen, just 2 miles west of Turtle Bay, stuff like that. She said 42nd and then up 13 blocks to 53rd Street. That's all. That's the area where they put all the congestion pricing. That's where all those fancy buildings is at. The Intrepid is over there. A lot of conventions is over there. The cruise, the dock for the cruise ships is over there. It's that's wild. They are paying good rent. We talking 6,000 and up.
And they have to deal with this every day on their sidewalk. And later in the Post article, Bill Bratton, the NYPD.
That area, that right there, that's right next to the, right across the street from these trucks. That's the UPS. That's the UPS distribution center. I know that because I used to work there early 2024.
Former NYPD commissioner.
It's not a lot of traffic on that block. It's just the trucks. It's no houses on that block. But if you head upward, see on the screen, head upward, right across the street is big luxury apartments over there for like blocks.
Talks about the squeegee guys back in the day before Rudy cleaned everything up and what New York was like. And I can personally tell you, when I walk around on the street and I see the mentally ill around, it is scary. It is hard to cope. You're constantly watching and wondering if somebody is going to dart at you or do something to you. And you live here. You spend all this money to live here. You pay all this money in taxes. Everything you go to touch to buy is more expensive than it is anywhere else. And you ask yourself why, when it's, literally spiking your adrenaline just to be able to walk outside. And that, if he is freaking out, that's what he's worried about, that anybody sane who's still paying taxes here is going to finally get fed up and say, enough. You want the city? You want to turn it into a socialist, communist experiment? Here, it's yours. Take it. I'm out of here.
You know what? You know who else might turn on him because they can't stomach this is the rich, elite, liberal white kids who voted for him in this city. Like they like Mamdani Instagram style. They like all the pizzazz and all that. But
yeah, because he's an effective communicator and he represents something outside of the norm that we're used to growing up with. So yeah, all the rich kids, when they start stepping in shit, when they're going to get their mancha on the way to the gym, yeah, they're gonna be like, yo, bump this, go back to Florida.
But when they walk by a dumpster full of bags of needles, sex toys, cigarette butts, and empty food containers, and that's spilling over into their life here, then I think they even start to ask questions. I think he's freaking out about those people.
He could be.
Because they're on paper socialists, but I don't think they do the socialism. Exactly. They haven't seen it in their reality. And he's afraid they're going to get the message when they see all this junk.
No
You don't think that they're okay with it?
We've done this. They are
Right?
okay with it because they're
I
empathetic.
I agree.
And they're good people.
These are the
telling you,
East Village
I have
brunch
seen
people.
it.
They're not-
I have lived it, and he's not freaked out at all.
I
And he's going to
agree.
give all that money to the NGO.
She goes to Tracy Martin to get her facials for sure.
That funded his campaign.
And there too, they believe
telling you.
on the deep left, correct me if I'm wrong, why he's not worried about the white liberal who now has to see it in their own backyard.
No.
These people have a right to live wherever they want.
Yeah.
They don't need to go to a home.
Nope.
They have a bodily autonomy. If they want to poop and sit on this street in this 12th Avenue, Brian, they have every right to do that.
did this.
My body, my choice.
Nithya
And
Raman's
that's what
going to
they believe.
become the mayor of Los Angeles. She is the Mamdani equivalent. Spencer Pratt, night. We just did this in LA.
And when they go to stab somebody, I hope they stab that person and not me, because I'm not interested in seeing people living on the street in their poop and hypodermic needles all over the
if
place.
you try to
You don't want to step in no poop. Nobody trying to step in no poop, man. They just got their new J's. Nobody trying to step in no poop. I don't know. I want to pivot, man. I want to pivot. I can't play the music, but I want to talk about Rick Ross album. I mean, I like Ross as a lyricist, man. But that album is okay at best. Future album is trash. Drake still put the best albums out. I can't wait to hear that new Tory Lanez. I'm a big Tory Lanez fan. Free Tory. Megan lied. He ain't shoot her. It was her homegirl. What's this? What? More taxes are coming. This may just be the beginning for New York. That's Fox again. Let me see if I can find something else. I don't want to do Fox. What we got? Let me check my list, because I seen a few days ago. I seen a video that kind of did the data and the correlation between homelessness and mental illness. I think that'd be a good video to review with you guys, because she actually has the data. It's just that the video was from a year ago. When did this drop? Let me see. When did this drop?
So check this out.
When did this drop? Justine Underhill from a year ago. This is a good video. She's going to run you by the data and how housing works and why there's a shortage of housing. I think this is a good video for people to watch if you want to understand why building more housing may be difficult and how building more housing most likely won't solve the problem because everyone is priced out. So y'all tune into this.
This is one of the most important charts of our generation. This trend has become the rocket fuel for disruption, displacement, and unrest. The cost of housing, to buy or to rent.
The orange line is the housing cost, and the green line is the income from 1984
has far outpaced income growth. As a share
that big dip was the recession in 2008.
of our income, we're now spending more on housing, a basic need, than at any other point.
Yeah, so from 1984 to present day, look at that gap in that chart. Let me full screen this so you could get a better view of this. I'm gonna full screen this real quick. Look at this chart. Income and the cost of housing has separated by massive percentage. Where we at? This is about, income is at about under 20%. Housing is at 94, 95%. That's crazy. That's why you can't afford no housing. That's why so many homeless people.
Since World War II. In response to this crisis, some cities are actually trying to build more housing, but then we end up here.
You're thinking that just increasing the supply of housing in this high demand area will bring prices down?
If you build more housing, you're going to bring more people in and it's going to get more expensive.
We could end up with all this density, all this market rate housing, and really no more affordability.
So residents block new housing. And I get it. It seems like every time we try to build more housing, it ends up looking like this. $1 million condos and upscale townhomes with luxury finishes. It's in a trendy, hipstery, yuppie neighborhood with handcrafted dog treats and blue matcha lattes.
Gotta have that matcha.
It's not affordable. And it just kind of feels bad. We're trying to make housing affordable, and yet we just keep building expensive things. So what actually happens when we build that expensive housing? And can it do anything for affordability? To start, we're going to take a look at the extreme end of housing unaffordability: homelessness. Every year, communities across the country conduct the point-in-time survey on the exact same day, counting the total number of people experiencing homelessness. And when we dive into the data, we notice some really
I'll be right back, y'all.
interesting trends, like the fact that San Francisco has almost 5 times the rate of homelessness as other cities like Chicago. So why is that? Well, when we cross-reference these statistics with other data sets, we can actually get a clue as to what fundamental factors drive homelessness. Before we get into all of the data, I'll pose this question to you, dear viewer. What causes high rates of homelessness in a city like San Francisco? Or rather, what do people most often think causes high rates of homelessness in a city like San Francisco? If you want to guess, pause the video right now. All right, time's up. Here's what people think causes high rates of homelessness, and one other we'll get to later. Before we dive into the data, here's a quick statistics rule of thumb. You can look at a scatter plot and kind of eyeball whether there's a link with all of the points lined up or not, with everything randomly scattered. But the R-squared is the more precise way to tell if there's a link. Here's the exact definition of R-squared, but super loosely, 0 implies no direct correlation, and 1 is total correlation. All right, let's dig in. First up, drug use. For each of these charts, we have the homeless rate on the y-axis, and for this chart, we have substance abuse rates on the x-axis. Each dot is a city or a state in a particular year, and with an R-squared of 0.06, the data shows virtually no link. And then there are places like West Virginia, which has the highest overdose death rate, the fewest people receiving treatment. But despite that, it has some of the lowest rates of homelessness. And to that point, when you look at homeless populations with substance abuse issues, only 1/3 had substance abuse problems before they became homeless, and 2/3 developed these problems after they became homeless. If anything,
Yeah, they be trying to deal with the stress. Then they get a bad batch and then go batshit crazy.
homelessness seems to cause substance abuse, not the other way around. All right, next chart. This plots homelessness rate versus the rate of severe mental illness. Again, there's no correlation. Look, I'm sure you've seen mentally ill people on the street, especially if you're in a place like New York City or San Francisco. And frankly, the media loves to cover this sort of thing.
Get the mentally ill homeless who are
there go Fox News.
a threat off the street.
A mentally ill homeless guy.
The street crime, the drugs, the filth, mentally ill, homeless, all of it.
It's something that seems much bigger than it actually is because of how visible it is. There are plenty of places like Alabama that have higher rates of severe mental illness, yet lower rates of homelessness. But homelessness is far bigger than just mental health issues. Severe mental illness just doesn't seem to be much of a driving factor behind high rates of homelessness. Next, we have welfare. And for welfare, there's this idea that because places like New York and California offer more support and safety nets, they then become magnets for homelessness. So here's a chart that plots homelessness rate versus welfare benefits. And yet again, the data shows virtually no link between homelessness and amount of welfare. And as for the idea of people picking up and moving to states with generous welfare benefits, it turns out that as people's income drops, it generally becomes more and more difficult to move. A study found that at least 90% of people.
Yeah, you end up stuck where you at until you could make a bag. But yeah, that's basically what I wanted to show y'all, that according to the data, mental illness and drug abuse goes up with homelessness. It got nothing to do with poverty, being poor, or the other thing she said. But anyway, that's my show for tonight. I'll be back Monday trying to get that group chat started up. And I'll catch y'all guys on the next stream, man.